It would seem as though.
Hi.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
A glorious good morning. Actually, it's not at all. It's gray.
Oh,
it's overcast. It's rainy. It's
girl,
cold.
your backyard, that's what that is bright. I don't know what you're talking about.
It is bright, but it's so
beautiful.
gray out there.
All right, well, I see a lot of blue sky.
Well, then I guess you're an optimist and I'm a pessimist.
Because that's me.
Well, we've switched roles for today.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of It Would Seem As Though, the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Mostly nothing.
Yeah, I'm Vesta.
I'm Annika.
And we're thrilled to be here. As always.
Thrilled.
You know, we took the long drive to our studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe it took you, 30, 40 seconds to get here?
Girl, I had to let the dogs in. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That is true. So, yeah.
It took me maybe 7 seconds to walk over here.
Oh, so the other, 25 seconds was letting the dogs into the house.
Totally.
And, Yeah.
Yeah.
So your commute was good?
Yeah. Easy. No traffic. Just piles of poop on the road. It was weird.
That is weird. It's as if between us we have 6 dogs.
Listen.
That's a lot of dogs, by the way.
Okay, but let me tell you a little ditty, okay? Your dogs are the size of human beings. And
that
one
is
of your
true.
dogs weighs more than me. So, I'm going to say...
One of my dogs, I believe, weighs more than all 3 of yours put together.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What is Annabelle?
50-ish pounds.
50-ish.
Yeah.
And then...
The other two are... I mean, Mixie's 17 pounds. And
So-
Jean is 30 at best?
So 50, 60, 70, maybe together 100 pounds.
Potentially.
And my biggest dog is 165 pounds.
Yeah, well, if I include my cat, too, so that's about 120 pounds, okay?
You do have a giant cat.
I do, you're right.
Yes.
But yeah, I
I
have
know,
to,
so he poops like a horse.
yeah, I have to, get my, jump over it, high jump over it.
Right. To pole vault.
Yeah, girl, that's the word. I was
I know. I was watching you imitate pole vaulting, and I was like,
javelin,
she'll come up with it.
Staff, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's something where you jump over things. You
Sure,
know, uh-huh.
sure, yeah. Because I many times pole vaulted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All those times you were pole vaulting.
Yeah, because I was such an athletic child.
Uh-huh.
Well, if you call jumping to conclusions
that
or
is-
running my mouth being athletic, I was really...
Top of the class.
I lettered, I'm pretty sure in that.
Yeah, you had straight A's.
You know, I gotta say, it chapped my ass a little bit that by the time you were in high school, you could letter in theater.
Yeah, girl.
When I was in school, you could only letter in sports, period.
That's stupid.
So you either played one of the major sports or you got nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't letter in sports at all. I lettered in many other things, like mock trial and academics.
Right, but those
and
weren't even
leadership.
things when I was
Well,
in school.
Must have sucked to go to school during the Stone Age, huh?
Well, it did. It did. And letter would have been carved in a rock anyway.
Yeah, or they just carved it in your skin because, they didn't have fabric. Only, linen? I'm not sure.
No, we had animal skin.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
just some pelts.
Some pelts. That's what I wore to school. Some pelts. The problem with pelts, of course, is they get smelly after a while.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't clean them enough to.
And
not.
you already had 6 dozen siblings, so you didn't need to increase
Ugh.
the stench of your home.
No. Can you imagine? At
No.
one point, I lived with 4 teenage boys.
Duh.
I know.
No,
Gross.
that is disgusting.
Gross.
That's not
That's
good.
gross.
It's really gross.
I mean, really,
Ew.
teenagers.
Ew, boys.
Teenagers in general. Ugh.
Girl, let me tell you.
I know. Listen, I want to start today
Okay.
by reading a little email.
Email.
Because I do love the emails. And we got an email from our good friend Lori Lee.
Hello.
I know. Oh, God, I didn't even read the PS until just now. Good afternoon. I was able to listen to the pod yesterday. You two had me rolling with laughter when you melted Thor, the Amish, with the sprinkle of rum springa added to the mix. Hilarious. Congratulations, Annika, on your Phi Beta Kappa status. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I know that's pretty awesome. Are you completely done with classes? Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm getting close, though.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you still had one more semester to go. Yes, she does. Anyway, let me know when graduation is. I know you're not heading down to Phoenix, but I'm sure there will be a celebration that a celebration will be had in Portland, and I would like to send a card at the time. All for now, Lori Lee. P.S. Vesta, you absolutely should have a lifetime pass to Disney. Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean, since Walt is my great cousin, uncle, brother.
Ew, not cousin, uncle, brother. I know where that...
I grew up in the country.
Girl,
those things are possible.
I was going to say, I know we're, like, country people, but, like, we are not that... We're not that
We're
country.
not that country. I'm descended from royalty, and
We
you're
are not.
practically the people's princess.
Oh,
so...
boink. Yes, thank you
So,
so
you
much.
know,
I'm doing great.
I know.
We're living the high life.
So I do not have Uncle Grandpa.
Praise... Wow. Keep that bloodline pure.
Well, that was my hope, to keep that bloodline pure.
Yeah. Maybe that's the issue. We needed to mix our bloodline up a little
Perhaps.
bit.
Because, you know, that is, I think, the problem with a lot of royalty is that they do not.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
they get more and more kind of special
Well,
as time goes on.
and a lot of them have had, like, intellectual and physical, actual, like...
Here's our AMSR moment.
Delicious. But they had a lot of, you know, whether it was, like, physical or intellectual ailments. Like, what's that one king who had the big jaw? You know what I'm talking about.
Sure, the King Big Jaw. Yeah. He is one of my favorite kings. He had a big jaw?
Yeah, he was, like, malformed slightly. He had, like, an oversized jaw. Maybe...
I don't know. I think you made it up.
I didn't. But it's because they were all cousin brothers and sister wives and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so...
Well, Queen Elizabeth, I mean, because we're going back just to the one who just passed away.
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, were cousins.
That's icky.
Both of them, I think it was both of their, like, great-grandmother was Queen Victoria. But I'm not sure the exact relation, but they were both related to Queen Victoria. Well, you should not be married then.
No, but and here's the thing. Do you want to know something crazy?
I do want to know something crazy.
I am taking a class on, like, sociology of marriage and relationships and dating, right? And I've learned a couple things that in a lot of states, depending, right, it is okay for first cousins to get married, but there's caveats. One of you or both of you have to be over the age of 65.
Oh, so you can't reproduce.
So you can't reproduce, but it's not illegal. And then in my text it says, like, well, you know, even if first cousins do marry and procreate, there's, like, such a slim chance that their children will be, like, have issues. And I'm like, but socially it's so fucking weird to me.
Yeah.
Those aren't the only people who live near you. This isn't the old frontier, bitch. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we live in a world of billions of people, and you're gonna fuck your cousin on account of why?
Well, you know, speaking of cousins, you know, my cousin Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his wife were cousins.
Mm-hmm.
They were.
That's great and all. I still think...
But I mean, it's like... But, you know...
I just think, like, at some point...
Perhaps it's because he married a lesbian that he thought it didn't matter.
Oh, well, maybe.
I don't know.
I guess. But, like, you know, at some point, your family tree is going to go back to the same person, and it's not going to be that long ago.
I'm sorry, but if your family tree has just the one branch...
Hey,
then
problem.
That is a problem.
Ugh,
yeah.
Icky. Anyway.
So I wanted to talk about something I did this week.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Just kidding. Yay!
So... I went to a show on Sunday night down at Darcel's. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is still open. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping it stays that way. I'm going to knock on wood right now. Anyway, I saw the second in a series of shows called Experience. And the first one was Experience Poison Waters, which was phenomenal, and I loved it. And I've known Poison since she was, you know, just a tiny tot. Mm-hmm. I met Poison when she was 18, and she's now old.
Yeah.
And... Poison is 54.
Okay.
Or will be this year, I think. Anyway, she's 8 years younger than me. So that would mean she is 54, will be 55 this year. Oh God. But this Sunday I went to see Experience Maria Peters Lake.
Yes.
And dear God, did I experience it. Because, one, I got there at 5, door was at 5, show was at 6. So I was like, we'll leave here at 5. It's, you know... we already have our tickets. They only sold as many seats as they have. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I won't get a seat. Girl. We got there at 5:30. The place is packed. And we had to sit right on the edge of the runway. Oh. Which means, you know, neck strain, looking up the whole time like you're in the front row of the theater. Mm-hmm. But whatever, it was fine. But for those of you who know anything about drag and drag families and whatever, Maria... is my very first drag child. So I put her in drag for the first time when she was 21. And that was a long time ago. Because, well, I was 23.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So, 1985. I know, right? Anyway, but it was a wonderful show. It really was. It was very, very fun and funny and touching and heartwarming. And boy, oh boy, did I cry. Because I'm trying to remember what set off
Wait,
the
were you in
tears.
full geesh? Were you in full
No,
drag?
no.
Okay.
God, thank God, no.
Yeah.
I just went, nope. Because I would have, Tammy Faye my eyes. Oh, no, not good.
Yep.
No. Oh, what started it, there was a song that I used to do that she actually performed called If I Could. And it's a song sung like from a mother to her children about, if I could take away all the pain in the world and if I could teach you these lessons and blah, blah, blah. Well, I used to do it, but I wasn't a parent. Hearing it again as a parent with children, and, it's like saying how I have to, raise you up to let you go and all these things. And I'm all bawling.
Yeah.
Bawling. And then she's like, all right, I'm going to go change, but I want you to watch this video of the people who we've lost that I don't want to ever forget. Well, of course. I knew every single person on there.
Yeah.
And more weeping. Yeah. And it was like, oh, for God's sakes. And I was just, my little handkerchiefs that I was using to wipe my face was sopping wet.
Yeah.
And so most of the people on the video were people who died from AIDS. But there were people who died from other things as well. One of them, I know for a fact, died by suicide. Somebody else was murdered. So, but it was like seeing all these the peoplers.
Not the peoplers.
And having all those things kind of brought back to the forefront or whatever. So, of course, I'm crying at that. And then when she came back on stage after the video, she did the song Home from The Wiz, which always gets me.
Yeah, right?
And I was like, okay, I am
gotta
withering
go.
away
I'm
because all of my fluids have left.
I didn't know I was going to need to bring Gatorade.
Right. But it was a wonderful show. And so it's going to be a series of shows.
Okay.
Which...
Who's next?
Well, it may or may not be me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I can't announce anything for sure yet because we don't, but I am on the roster.
Okay.
But we don't have a for sure nailed down date yet.
Okay.
But when I do know, I'll be, announcing it on here.
Yeah.
And on the books of the faces and
it'll be
all
sold
the
out like
places.
immediately.
I hope so.
Girl.
I hope so. That of course has been my concern. I was talking to my husband about that. I was like, I would love to do it, but I'm afraid no one will come and I'll be there by myself doing a show to an empty room. And he's like, his version of, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Because had I said it to you, you'd have just said, you're stupid.
Bitch, shut up.
You're so dumb.
Yeah.
He said it nicely and supportively and lovingly.
Rude.
Like he... But the message still was, why you dumb?
Yeah, why you dumb, though? Look,
why you dumb, though?
Okay, even if it's just like a giant family reunion, do you not think that it'll be packed full of people? Because I'm pretty sure it will,
Well, that would be great. I hope so. None of the other thing I hope is that I'll have the stamina to get through it because it's just me.
How long is that?
It was an hour and a half.
Okay.
Well, it was supposed to be an hour and a half. Hers was like 2 hours and 10 minutes because the girl likes to talk.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. She also likes to drink.
Oh.
Which adds to the talking.
Yeah.
Now, I am hoping, because I don't drink, that I'll be more mindful of kind of time.
Yeah.
But whatever. Maybe I'll have somebody like they do on TV programs where they, like flash the little light and see like time, or start playing me off stage with the orchestra. I was like, oh, gotta go. My time is up.
Thank you so much.
That was my time. But we'll see. I guess, because I guess she had a few rehearsals. So, Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. I'm going to pull out some stuff I haven't done in a long time. And maybe even learn a new song. Who knows?
Oh, you can't learn anymore.
I know. I'm old, so learning is hard.
Old dogs. No tricks.
I'm an old dog who has no tricks. So,
well.
I mean, other than the ones I turned all those years ago.
Yes, you hooker.
Well.
I'm sorry. You sex worker.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's be appropriate.
Never. Thank you, though.
I mean, I would appreciate it if you were appropriate.
No.
Speaking of appropriate, we're going to talk today about problematic movies that are clearly not appropriate.
Right.
And we, when we talked about this the other day, it was just like, oh, this will be a fun topic.
Will it?
Because there are so many movies, and probably a lot of movies that we loved growing up, or that, we even if they aren't movies we love, movies we knew about, movies we had seen.
Yeah.
That viewed with today's eyes are problematic.
Yeah. And I do want to say a little something, though. There are a lot more shows than there are movies anymore, but there's like a genre basically of social commentary where a lot of the times it is offensive, but intentionally, right? And this is like a lot of adult cartoons are this way, so like Family Guy and all that. But there's like, first of all, there's a show called like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is rife with problematic behavior and situations. But that's the point, right? It shows you these like problematic situations and outlandish issues, but like reels it in.
Right.
Or...
So it's kind of shining a light on them.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like, even though I don't watch like Family Guy or American Dad or South Park, I understand what they're doing, and I don't hate them for being problematic in the same way that I hate a lot of things. Like, if you made a film and didn't intend it to be problematic, and then it was, that's the real issue, right? Because you were unaware. I think making your art and making it forces people to think about shit and like, why am I angry about this or whatever.
Right.
I don't think that's as problematic. I would watch any of those dumb cartoon shows over most of the films we're going to talk about today.
Right. Well, and some of these films that we're going to talk about are films that I love.
Agreed.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And some of them that a couple of them I knew right off the top of my head.
Sure.
Without even having to think about them. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that actually you kind of started me on this track long time ago was with the television show Friends.
Yeah.
Because Friends, one of the most beloved comedies of all time, ran for 712 seasons, I think.
Yep.
But it's problematic because they're all white.
Yeah.
They live in New York City, in this fairyland where you can afford really nice apartments when you barely work, and you don't know any people of color.
No. Well, and that is like the main overtone, right? But then there's all like the homophobia that's in it. There's like the transphobia that's in it. The fat phobia. There's sexism. It's like there's so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Monica in the fat suit.
Yeah,
I can't even watch that episode. It just infuriates me.
Right, and I don't know any of their names, but like Jennifer Aniston.
That's it. I know all their names because I watched all the seasons.
Okay, I never watched. I've seen parts of it because it was in the 90s, of course, but I didn't. Like when she's trying to hire a nanny and it's Freddie Prinze Jr. as a Manny and Ross keeps saying, "Are you gay?" and like over and over talking about how he's gay. He's probably gay because he is a nanny, and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like, you're so stupid, you know.
Right.
And to me, it is just very problematic on every front.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is Aisha Tyler was on there for a season. She started as, I think, Joey's love interest, and then became Ross's love interest. You know, whatever, however that worked out. I don't remember the specifics because that was a long time ago, and I haven't watched it for a really long time. But she was talking with someone about the show and how the woman who made the show, I think it's Marta Kaufman, had said, "Oh, you know, if I'd have known better at the time, I'd have done better." Blah blah blah. And Aisha Tyler said she knew better. She grew up in New York. This is based on her life in New York. She didn't know any people of color in New York. What part of New York did she live in? The top of Trump Tower?
Yes,
I mean,
girl, right, honestly.
Come on.
Yep.
So that's kind of the inspiration of this, is just the things that we viewed as normal that now, again, with modern eyes that have had some education and have actually made an effort to become more aware.
And I want you to know, it kind of ruined, I mean, not that, I would much rather know more than not, but it does ruin so many things for me. Like, I don't know, when I was in therapy, I used to ask my therapist, like, how do you feel happy? Not just, like, on an individual level. Like, I know that happiness, but how do you feel happiness or contentedness in the world that we live in, right? With, like, all the bullshit that's happening. And it's because of, like, often what I study in, like, our identities and our demographic, but like it's hard for me to watch things that are problematic without unintentionally being problematic. You know, if they want to be problematic, it's different because again, it was a thought out process opposed to like, oh, I was in blackface and didn't realize that it was offensive to black people. Like, it's hard for me. It ruins shit. And one example I use is Gavin and I, we show each other shows all the time. And he loves a show, and he's like, it's not the best, but it's like one of my favorites and whatever. And I can't stand it. And it's from like the late 90s, early 2000s. It's Rules of Engagement.
I know about it. I've never seen it.
Like David Spade and Patrick Warburton.
Yes, I do know about it. I've actually probably seen one episode now that you say that. Because I love Patrick Warburton.
Same.
And I can't stand David Spade.
Agreed. But we started from like, you know, season 1, episode 1, started watching it, and I got through maybe 5 episodes. And barely. I don't think I laughed out loud one time. And it was all just like sexist and fatphobic and homophobic. And I was like, and it's not like overt, you know, but still I'm like, babe, I'm having a really hard, like, I just don't think this is that funny, you know? But then I don't want to seem like I'm snooty, but it was so hard. I was just like, this is so, like, allegedly a comedy, but where the funny at, girl? Where the funny? Mm-hmm.
I know. I feel that way too about so many things. I'm watching a show right now because Debbie at my work told me, you know, how great it was that she and her son binged through it in one day. I'm having trouble finding the funny. It's the new Rob Lowe one that's on Netflix. It's called Unstable, where he's like this genius who's invented all these amazing things that changed the world. He recently lost his wife, and so he's having trouble trying to get back to normal. His normal, not normal, because his normal is crazy billionaire, lives in their own bubble normal. You know, but I'm all, no, I don't see it. I'm in episode 5, and I'm like, where's the funny? Yeah, and there's only 8 episodes,
but it's not problematic. It's just not funny.
Yeah, it's just not funny. I haven't found it to be problematic.
Well, that's like that new show on Hulu with Joel McHale, and it's like Animal Control or whatever.
I hated it.
It's boring, and
there's no funny.
No, and so many of the actors are so great that I'm like, what'd you all do?
I know, because Joel McHale on his own kills me. He's so funny.
Every time. Yeah. And I'm rewatching Community for the 15th time, and he is great in it, you know? Funny, but Animal Control is boring.
Yeah. So the first kind of place I want to go is right to my favorite thing in the world, which is Disney.
Okay, what are you going to talk about?
Well, there are 5 movies. Now, the one that they always talk about being the most problematic, of course, is Song of the South.
Yeah, obviously.
Because Song of the South is one that Disney, actually even Disney realizes it's problematic, and they've hid it away, locked it away in the Disney vault, as they call it, never to be released. And they made a statement many years ago that it would never be released. Mind you, I have a copy of it, but I got it from Europe. But the reason it's problematic is because it's set in the South during the time of slavery. And they make slavery look like it was just this big happy, all these happy black people
super sugar
loving the white people, all doing their job and whistling their little tunes and it's like, no, honey, that's not how it was. That's not even close to an accurate depiction, you know, and how the white people love the black people and the black people love. No. Sorry, that was not a thing. No, you know, and so to sugarcoat slavery in such a horrific way.
Well, and of course there were like individual times where people, you know, there was like an enslaved person who loved a white boy or whatever the fuck it was, a white boy who loved but that was not the common narrative of the.
Yeah, but that's also, I think, a lot of that is Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. You know, because when you're put in this situation and you're like have to take care of people, you know, you are probably going, if they're not horrible to you, you're probably going to develop a relationship.
Well, and also, I mean, let's think about it. Granted, people were socialized into like this system to enslave other people, but you know, there were people born who had like a mindset that like, how else did abolition become a thing, right? People believed that it was wrong. Granted, they were still racist, you know, because everyone was. But.
Of course. You know, and the thing is, that's the same reason Gone with the Wind is problematic.
Oh, I was bringing that up, girl.
You know, but we'll get to that. But, so did Dumbo.
Okay, yep.
Dumbo, I didn't even think about being problematic.
But the Crows.
The Crows.
A caricature.
Because they're a caricature of black people, of that time kind of the minstrel show, and that whole sort of thing. And to go back and look at it is like, oh...
Definitely.
Yeah. And watching it as a kid, I didn't think anything of it, of course. No. Because I was a kid. What do I know?
Also, elephants were your favorite.
Yeah.
So you're like, I don't care about the crows.
No. The crows were just an irritating moment in the movie.
Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Obviously.
And I think that one's super obvious because Pocahontas was a real human being.
Yeah.
Who was actually kidnapped and held for ransom by the white people. And then she ended up staying with the white people because she didn't have much of a choice.
But again, also like Stockholm syndrome.
But she was a child.
Yeah.
And she was married off to this white man whom she had a child with, and then died.
They just
because when she was exposed to white people, she
died
died at the age of 20.
I got it. I've almost died because of white people too.
Well, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing though, is they romanticize colonization. They romanticize the kidnapping of this child and try and turn it into something that's family friendly. But there's literally nothing about the true story of Pocahontas that is friendly.
No.
Or most stories involving white men coming to the New World and with indigenous people. There's not many stories that you're like, that's okay. Because most of it's
like
horrible.
the story of Skagawea, she was kidnapped.
Yep.
Then she was basically sold to Lewis and Clark.
Mm-hmm.
So, no. But what's interesting is right now in my daughter's class, they're learning about Pocahontas. And she told her teacher yesterday, she goes, yeah, this isn't right. And they were like, what do you mean? And she said, well, in this it says that Pocahontas, helped the white people and helped. And she's like, she didn't. I mean, she did, but not because she wanted to.
Yeah.
So I was like, good for you, girl.
Bad or death, girl.
I'm going to do two more, and they're both problematic for the exact same reason, which is the Aristocats and Lady and the Tramp.
I have one to add to that then. Continue. Why are they? Tell me.
Because of their depiction of Asian folk. Asian, in this case, both of them cats.
Yeah, the whole
who are wearing like in the Aristocats, the cat is wearing like a coolie hat and playing the piano with chopsticks and has little thing like long front, buck teeth, and it's that kind of that horrible stereotype.
Yeah.
But in Lady and the Tramp, yes, it's the Siamese cats who are evil and also are painted to look, with the slanted eyes.
I want you to know, Lady and the Tramp. Either of those movies are not my favorite.
BTW, Walt Disney hated cats.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I don't really care about the Aristocats, nor did I care about Lady and the Tramp as a kid. They were not my number one films. But in Lady and the Tramp, the Siamese cats were my favorite because they were mean and they were sleek and beautiful.
Right.
But I get it. But, the villain is usually who I liked anyway.
Yeah, well, right. We have discussed this before that you do usually associate with the villain.
Yeah, it's true.
So what is the one you have to add?
The add to Disney is Peter Pan.
Oh, of course.
Because when the Lost Boys go and meet the Chief and Tiger Lily, they sing a song called What Makes the Red Man Red.
Yes.
And then all the little Lost Boys have, like paint marks on their face, like traditional indigenous people. Tiger Lily, the wearing of the war bonnet.
Tiger Lily, who is a what? Indian princess.
Yes.
Which, again, is not a thing.
No. And so the passing of... like the peace pipe, and that's all. It's just so problematic to indigenous people. Like that part makes me
and
cringe.
The chief, the way that he's animated, is this like ridiculous, hideous caricature.
Yeah,
and it's awful.
And they are actually red. Like the color red. I looked at it again today when I was looking it up, and I was like, oh my fucking god! Like they're red.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, you're right. And I actually had forgotten all about that. But that is one of the issues I've taken for years with Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Is like, come on.
Yep.
I mean, I get this was done in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But still.
Yeah. I do also want to mention when you said Gone with the Wind, because that's on my list, by the way, for like whitewashing the horrors of slavery and again pretending everything was... I mean, granted, Civil War was happening, but it still wasn't... I don't know. It's not an accurate depiction.
Well, they also really glamorized Civil War.
Yeah, it rose
like
to
all
glasses.
These men couldn't just wait to get out to war, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna, kick their ass and whatever.
Yep.
And it's like,
or
glorified, I guess is the word I was looking for.
And here's a fun little tidbit. It was on HBO, like their streaming service, HBO Max, and they removed it for a long time because it was too much like glorifying the Civil War and romanticizing the time of slavery. So they said, oh no, we can't be showing this to people, even though it's been around since, 1939 or something?
1939, yeah. And it was one of the biggest films of the year. It was also revolutionary in the fact that it was a full-color film. Mm-hmm. It was, 72 hours long. It's a long... It takes you a week to watch it.
Yeah, honestly.
It actually had an intermission when you saw it at the theater, because it was long. It was almost 4 hours long.
That's nauseating.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple movies, I'm going to do a couple right off that everyone knows, and then some that are probably more obscure, but 16 Candles. We have to talk about 16 Candles. I saw that movie when it came out, and I was a young adult, and thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And oh my god, it's problematic for so many reasons. And it's not just the racism.
No, because
Where
Long
the
Duck
character
Dong.
of Long Duck Dong, who every time they say his name, they bang a gong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but however, when I saw that as a young person, I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you say his name, you're, and then just the way he's treated and the accent and then this, whatever. But the sexual abuse and whatever, it's like when Jake Ryan wants to meet Molly Ringwald, what was her name? I don't remember her name. Doesn't matter. When he wants to meet her and is going to trade his passed out girlfriend, he does, trades his passed out girlfriend to the little dweeb, Michael Anthony Hall, so that he can meet her. And I'm like, what? And he's like, says to him, you can basically do whatever you want to her.
Yeah. Because she's passed out in the bed. Yep. That's disgusting. I know.
So gross. And he does do basically whatever he wants to her.
Yeah.
Because they talk about it the next morning, and she's all, he says, did we? And she's like, yeah, I think we did. And then, I guess it was kind of okay. No, nothing about it was okay. Nothing about any of that was okay.
No. I know. Gross.
So,
fucking gross. This is a movie that I love, and I loved the novella first, and then I loved the movie a lot, but it's Breakfast at Tiffany's. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I loved Holly Golightly a lot. I love that she was just like a sleepy princess who liked to have a party, and then she would just leave because she didn't want to anymore. And she was weird and quirky, and I loved her. But obviously Mickey Rooney as the Japanese landlord of Mr. Yunioshi is, again, that very horrific Asian stereotype with, like, the buck teeth and the
glasses.
The glasses, yeah. And he's always, like, angry and pissed off and has a thick, incorrect accent. When the first time I saw it, I didn't, I was a teenager, so I was just like, meh. And I also didn't realize it was Mickey Rooney, I don't think. But then later, watching it again, I'm all, oh my fucking god, this is so horrific.
Mickey Rooney later apologized.
Good.
Because he was like, yeah, I feel terrible that that's what we did and we thought that was okay. Mm-hmm. And I think, I want to say it was directed by Blake Edwards.
Okay.
And he also apologized and was like, yeah, we really should not have done that. That was not okay. Whatever. But growing up, I used to watch, when I was a little kid, a show called The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters was the nanny, who was an Asian lady, Mrs. Livingston, who spoke with, she's like, Mr. Eddie's father. It's like, could it be any more like what Americans think that Asian people talk like? And I was like, ugh. But of course, as a little kid, I didn't know any difference. So it's going back and looking at it now that I'm like, oof, cringe.
Yes, girl.
Grease. Grease for me is so problematic for so many reasons. Yeah. But the biggest one, the whole point of the movie is if you completely change who you are, you'll get that boy that you want.
Yeah.
Change everything about yourself to get a boy.
I'm sorry, and how old was Danny? 35?
Well, he was actually in his middle 20s. She was 30. Rizzo was like 30-something.
That's perfect.
I'm like, you couldn't find teenagers to be in this movie?
No.
But in the song, Summer Lovin', one of the lines is, did she put up a fight?
Ew, it's so gross, right?
Yeah, I'm like, who thought this was okay?
I know, but you know what? Grease is still a movie that I'll continue to watch because I love Grease. I think it's just nostalgic. Granted, as a point now, I don't know. I just think that there's too much about it that I'm like, well, it's so ingrained in my childhood.
Yeah, I get that.
It's not like I'm going to watch it often, though. When's the last time I watched a musical?
I watched Grease not that long ago because the kids wanted to watch it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And my bigger thing is also the lyrics to, like, Grease Lightning are filthy.
Yeah.
But
as a kid,
filthy.
Yeah.
They're not just suggestive.
Yeah.
It's like, they talk about, this car is going to make her cream.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until I was an adult, though.
Yeah. As a kid, when I first saw it, now I was a teenager, and some of it I got, but they sing the lyrics go by pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
And it's catchy.
No, it didn't. Yeah, it was very catchy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I'd heard it about 100 times I was like, oh.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, boy. There's some stuff in there that is like, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a couple, but I want to talk about, a movie that we love, Soap Dish.
Oh, I know. And Soap Dish, it is a movie I love.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just cut out the last 5 minutes of it, I would be so much happier.
Yeah, where, Whoopi Goldberg, who plays Rose, outs the actress, Montana, who's played by, who is she?
It'll come to me in a second. I know her name, but of course, as soon as you said that, I'm all...
Anyway, so Rose, in the show, outs one of the actresses. They're like filming a soap opera, right? That's the whole point of the show.
Right.
And the actress she outs is trans, and she outs her on live television in front of everyone, saying that she's trans, and that is horrific. And then there's obviously the people around her, like the guy she made out with, like gagging, and all of the shit where it just like really, really like pathologizes and demonizes transness. And
well, and that same exact little thing happened on Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Oh, that's also my list, girl.
Mm-hmm. And first of all, I'm not sure who they thought, or if any of them had ever met a trans. Kathy Moriarty is the actress who played. But then she goes back to being a man. Mm-hmm. What? I'm sorry. So after they out her, and Montana Moorhead is Milton Moorhead, and it's like clearly if Robert Downey Jr. characters already had relations with her, whatever, he would have known. Well, of course.
What did we talk about last week, girl?
I know.
About like 75,000 year
But then because she's been outed, now she goes back to doing, whatever, dinner theater as a man.
Yeah.
What?
Normal. Seems regular. Mm-hmm. That's
okay, stupid. But yes, yeah. And I'm wondering if my good friend Whoopi Goldberg now cringes.
Probably. I would hope so.
I would hope. Because, yes, it's a funny movie, and there are some great lines in that movie. Probably my favorite line in that movie is when Kevin Kline says to Terry Hatcher, you have beautiful eyes, and she said, they're nothing compared to my tits. It's just a great line, and it is a good, fun movie, but
just plug your ears.
But then it just turns to shit in the last few minutes.
Yeah. We can just end it differently.
Yeah.
Let's just
for Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, at the end they find out that Sean Young's character is trans, but obviously has not had bottom surgery.
Yeah.
And so, because when they turn around, it's like you see what is supposed to be a penis, but it's like, what the fuck? It looks like she just has something in her underpants that shouldn't be there. And then everybody starts puking.
Yeah.
It's really
cute.
Gross.
It's really heartwarming.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
Oh, yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Well, because, classic musical, it's one of those big MGM musicals, and it's the really heartwarming and touching story of 7 brothers who kidnap 7 women to make them fall in love with them.
Yay.
So it's about kidnap and Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, I love it.
And the women all, of course, end up falling in love with them, because what choice do they have? They're trapped with them, because once they get them to their house, there's a huge, avalanche that blocks the road. So, and it snows all winter because they live in, I don't know, the mountains somewhere. And so nobody can get through to them. And so by the time they're able to rescue them in the spring, it's too late. They love all those boys, and they're all going to get married. And it's like, gross.
Yeah.
Gross. It is so gross. It's like, what man wrote this and thought this was a great idea?
Yeah, this is wonderful.
But it's one that, it's classic. It's one that's been shown a million times. Everybody loves it. And I'm all,
okay, so I have... So there's one that I think maybe already knew was problematic, but the fact they put it on television or in a movie is so gross. There's the movie Cruel Intentions with Ryan Phillippe, and his stepsister is Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Selma Blair is in it, and Reese Witherspoon is the main girl that they're trying to go after.
Okay.
And the whole plot of this fucking movie is that Ryan Phillippe, stepbrother to Sarah Michelle Gellar's stepsister, make a bet that if he can get the new girl, Reese Witherspoon, to give him her virginity, and if sister wins, she gets Ryan Phillippe's car, but if Ryan Phillippe wins, he gets to fuck stepsister.
Ew.
Yeah. So the whole thing is convincing this young girl to give them their virginity, And if they lose, or if Brian Phillippe wins, and he gets to fuck his sister, it grosses me out. And as a youth, because
I'm so glad I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, because I saw it as a younger person, which because what was parental guidance.
Right.
But I remember thinking, ew, like that is so fucking gross to me. Like specifically that part, And there's a lot of like
that's very disturbing.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexually inappropriate behavior between like adults and teenagers, or obviously step siblings. And I was just like, who watches this and thinks any part of this movie is like hot? You know what I mean? Because it makes me want to fucking gouge my eyes out. Ugh,
yeah,
horrible.
Going back to Seven Brides, and the whole kidnap to fall in love and whatever, Overboard.
The entire plot.
The entire plot of Overboard with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn is she's this rich snobby woman who falls off her boat, gets amnesia, gets saved by this dirt poor dude and his horrible children, and he makes her believe that she is his wife and the mother of these children, and basically holds her hostage.
Yeah.
Whatever. And it's like, but of course she falls in love with him, and then
course.
At some point, I guess, realizes that she's really not. But
minute.
who cares? Because now they're in love.
Well, because I think she sees it on the news or something. Like this lost woman, and it's also problematic.
But it's so problematic. It's like how, and it's a beloved movie.
Yep,
so that bothers me so much.
Oh, so the movie The Notebook that everyone's like, oh
yes,
my god, it is so sweet. There's a part. Well, there's a lot of it that I just find obnoxious because I don't care. But there's the part where Ryan Gosling, who's like the main, and then Rachel McAdams, and they're on a Ferris wheel, and he says, because she rejects him, he says that he's like, will you leave me no choice? And like pretends to attempt suicide. So you're gonna kill yourself because you were rejected by the girl. Like that is a horrible, problematic trope to be showing people.
Yes. Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, I agree. One that is more minor, but just bothered me, and it bothered me every time I saw this movie. Okay. Another classic Hollywood movie is An Affair to Remember.
Okay.
When Sleepless in Seattle came out, they use a clip of An Affair to Remember, and so it really brought that movie back to the forefront, and which is why I watched it, because I watched Sleepless in Seattle first. Well, the woman who plays the lead in it is a teacher, and she's at this school teaching music and whatever, and you see this little the risers with all the children singing, and they're singing some, I don't know, who cares, random song. And then in the middle of the song, for no particular reason, the only two black children in the choir come down and tap dance. And I'm like, what? Why?
What just happened?
And there's no purpose for it.
Yeah.
It's literally they step off the risers, come down in the front, do a little tap dance. That's like, are we at a minstrel show?
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
And then go back into the choir and finish their song that is unrelated entirely to the tap dancing. And I was like, even the first time I saw it, so that was probably in the 80s, I would guess. I watched that and I was like, what just happened? And why did that happen?
Yeah.
What? Who? What? Why?
Why? Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So there's obviously one of the very first films that was like credited for being like a full-length film, which was Birth of a Nation.
Oh yes, that celebrates the KKK.
Celebrates the KKK, and it has white men in blackface. So that's obviously horrific. But this one I didn't really think about because I've seen this movie exactly one time, and I said, "Why is this happening?" And I saw it with Becky, my birth mother, and we talked, and she cried the whole time. But it's Passions of the Christ.
Oh, right.
Which is intensely brutal and bloody because Jesus was whipped and crucified and whatever.
Yeah.
But their depiction of Jewish people is, like, intensely problematic. And then just, like, it's all very stereotypical, you know?
Well, it's Mel Gibson.
And then I was going to say, later, when Mel Gibson came out as a huge anti-Semite, it makes way more sense. But yeah, that movie, I was like, this is unnecessary. Like, this is so gratuitous. For what purpose? Like, because we don't know that allegedly Christ was crucified.
Right. Was
like,
beaten and stabbed. And,
yeah, like, why do we need to watch this? Anyway.
I was telling a story the other day of when I was a kid and I went to summer camp every year. I went to Christian camp. And the last day of camp, they would make us do this hike from the camp, then like up this road. So because if you looked at the end of the camp, if you look straight up, there's this very, very steep hill. and at the top of the hill are 3 crosses.
Yeah.
You can get there by going straight up that hill, which, by the way, is horrific. I did it one time, thought I was going to die. Or you can take the road, which does this kind of switchback effect until you get to the top.
Yeah.
Well, somebody somewhere allegedly did the whole math and figured out that if you walked that path, that's the length of the road that Jesus took with a cross, tied to his back. Mm. So it was like, so every year they made us do this walk, and thankfully they didn't strap across it anymore backs, but they were like, well, you're doing this walk and whatever, but Jesus had to do it with a cross,
Oh, so Jesus is better than me? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
But I don't know. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Yeah. Just that came up the other night, and the kids were like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because
it was church.
Christians are fucking weird.
Christians are weird. Aloha, the movie with Emma Stone.
Is that what it's called?
Aloha. Yeah.
Oh, I never watched it. Where she's Asian.
Mm. That beautiful little white girl who is a whitey white whiterson.
Yeah, she's Asian.
She's supposed to be a quarter Asian and a quarter Hawaiian, which would still make her half Asian. Yeah. And it's like, ma'am, why on earth would the director, in these modern times, because there are no Asian actresses anywhere in the world. What?
What do you mean?
What? How? Another one I would just want to throw out there that I've never seen, because I wouldn't, because it's a horror film, is Jeepers Creepers 3. So the man who directed, and it was came out in, I think, 2017-ish.
Okay.
But the man who directed it, Victor Salva, in 1988 was convicted of raping a child.
I'm pretty sure this is the second one. And here's why I think that. Because the second one is chock full of half-naked teenagers.
Well, but the movie he directed, so he actually filmed himself raping this girl.
Oh.
And so obviously was convicted.
Yeah.
But somehow got out of prison at any point, never should have, and directed this movie in 2017. And people were stayed away from it in droves because of who he was.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the first one, the Jeepers Creepers franchise really takes a nosedive. So I just recommend watching the first one and being all done. Because there's a new prequel.
I've seen the first one.
It's scary and fun, and I love the cast, but there's a new prequel on Hulu, and bitch, let me tell you something. It is the dumbest fucking film I've ever seen.
It's too bad.
Anyway.
Yeah, A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, that was top of my list, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, you talk about that, and if there's anything I need to add, I will.
Well, it's because of, first of all, that overt, scary-ass rape scene.
Yeah.
That
movie horrified me so much. I could barely watch it.
Well, and because so much of it is just copycat violence, right? It's the main character copying a bunch of violence, becoming just overtly violent for no reason.
Right.
Because he's crazy.
Yeah.
I hated the movie. In the book, I tried to read it. Here's the issue, is that they use so many different words in lingo that's just made up for the book, because it's future, right?
Oh, okay.
That in the back, there's a whole glossary that you have to keep referring to, and I said,
no thanks.
No, it's stupid. I hate it.
If I was reading a book that used a lot of foreign language, that would make sense, because it's that's, a language, and you're just bettering yourself by learning some other stuff. But what's interesting to me is the film was banned because it was so violent.
Yeah.
And Stanley Kubrick himself, who directed it, was one of the people who said, it should probably be pulled from cinemas because it is horrific. Too violent. And he was worried that because of the violence in the movie, that there would be copycat violence from the film. People would watch the film and go out and try to imitate that. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I hate that movie.
I watched it before I married my husband, and then I watched it because he said, will you watch this with me? And I was like,
no.
I'll try. I remember hating it.
Yeah.
But I blocked a lot of it out, except for how violent it was. Yeah. And so I tried to watch it. I was like, nope.
Literally
can't.
It's too much, Bob.
Yeah, it is too much. And it's got good people in it, whatever, but it's no. It's a disgusting film.
Yep.
One of the other ones is American Beauty.
That was second on my list, bitch. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is I forgot kind of the plot of the movie, because it's been so long since I've seen it. I absolutely loved Kevin Spacey until I didn't. I was very sad because I watched him in kind of everything.
Yeah.
Loved him.
Agreed.
And then we found out that he was problematic and, trying to bed young boys and being sexually inappropriate to young boys. And I was like, oh, really?
¿Por qué?
Why?
I know.
But the whole point of that movie is he's in love with the girl next door who's a teenager.
Yeah.
And
well, his daughter's
the
friend.
same age as his daughter.
Yeah, it's his daughter's friend, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, and well, there's like a topless scene of Thora Birch, and she's a teenager.
Yeah.
That whole movie, because I wouldn't say that I was like, oh, it's so great, but I did think it was done very well. It was
won Oscars.
Well, and the dad next door with the son, and he's a Nazi, whole...
Yeah.
Like, it was good, but it's... The content is horrific.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's so fucking foul, because that shit is an uncommon thing to happen, where grown men are lusting after teenage girls.
No, as a matter of fact.
Congress.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's interesting. I was talking to my mother recently, and she was talking about how when she was a teenager, that she and her girlfriends would all babysit for the kids in the neighborhood. But it got to a point where they had to have like a buddy system, and they wouldn't go babysit without their buddy because the dads would be pervy and want to like touch them on the way home when they would take them back home.
It is,
And it's like, gross.
Talking to grandma about those things really upsets me. Just because, like, it was such a different time and you didn't talk about it. Like, even, not just, like, the sexual harassment from other fathers, but just, like, how abusive her dad was. You know what I mean? And you couldn't, no one was there to help. Ugh, yeah, it's too upsetting for me. But yeah, let's make America great again.
Yeah, no.
How much time do we have? Because there's one that we haven't mentioned.
Well, go ahead.
Shallow Hal.
Yeah. That's one of the ones that's actually the film that inspired me to do this topic.
Okay.
Was because the other day I was listening to Trixie and Katya's pod, and they were talking about fat suits and just the whole thing and how problematic that is. But Shallow Hal, which I remember when the movie came out, I've never seen it. Yeah. I will not see it.
Right.
I saw the previews of it and was horrified enough.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a family thing where I was all, that movie is so offensive to fat people. And I remember one of my nieces saying, well, no, the whole point is he sees her inner beauty. It's like, so because she's fat, she can't be beautiful. So he has to see her as a skinny girl.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't get how that's a problem?
Yeah.
You don't get that it's a problem that when she jumps into the swimming pool, all of the water is displaced and a child is thrown into a tree? You don't get how that is, I mean, granted, it's like, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
It's 2001, something around that. So, but really?
I know. Yeah. There is a film that I don't think you've ever seen either. And I saw this film on a date when I lived in San Francisco. So that tells 2008, probably 2009. Okay. It's Tropic Thunder.
Oh, right. I know about it.
Do you know what's crazy? Is I looked at a lot of lists doing research for this, looking up shit for this, about like the most problematic film in movies. That isn't on a single one of them. And Robert Downey Jr. is in blackface the entire
But isn't that part of like... Yeah. Isn't it one of the ones like you were talking about earlier? That is, social commentary. That it's definitely offensive to be offensive. And they do it on purpose.
Yeah. And it's funny because Robert Downey Jr. today says things like, I don't know how I got away with it. And, like all these other people don't. But because it was meant to be offensive. And Ben Stiller plays like... disabled Simple Jack, I think is what his name is, like intellectually. Right. And because I think that the whole point of the film is they're filming a movie or they're in war, but it's like Vietnam.
Yes.
And so it was like Ben Stiller was a prisoner of war and he had to entertain the Vietnamese soldiers. So he was Simple Jack, which was an intellectually disabled. But I saw it in theater and I was like, why the fuck did you bring me to this movie? Like, I don't think most of this is funny. But yeah, so that movie, I was like shocked to see that people don't consider it problematic. But I get it, because again, social commentary.
Right. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes. Even though you want to know something, that is my favorite Indiana Jones. And not because...
I'm going to have to say same.
Because it's like fantastical, and there's like, a guy rips the heart out of another man, you know what I mean? And there's like, it's fun. It's more fun than any of the others, but when you realize, it's so severely racist. Especially with like Indian
it was banned in India.
Yeah,
because it was. Now, what's interesting about that is, or that kind of idea, the being banned in the country where it's supposed to be set, is the movie The King and I, which also not on any of these lists, problematic because it made the king look like a buffoon. And he was a very wise man. He was a very well-loved and respected king in his country, which was Siam, which later became Vietnam.
Okay.
Right? Siam became Vietnam.
I'm not sure.
I believe. Well, when they went, they filmed part of it. No, I'm sorry. They wanted to film the Anna and the King there. And the government was like, no.
Yeah.
Y'all made our king look like an absolute imbecile, and he was not. He was
Wasn't Anna and the King later? It has Draco Malfoy in it. It has Chow Yun-Fat in it, right?
I didn't remember Draco Malfoy.
He's
Is
the
he the
little
little boy?
boy.
Yeah, because Jodie Foster.
Tom Felton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster plays Anna.
Yeah, but I
And
thought
Chow
that's
Yun-Fat, who was
hot.
But it actually follows the story.
Yeah.
And it does not make the king look like an
Right.
idiot. It makes the king look like, he was a man who ended up being put in a very bad situation by her, so, but it's a much better telling of the story.
Yeah. It was a good movie.
It was a good movie. I really liked it. One of the movies I wanted to talk about, Manhattan. 1979, I think, is Woody Allen.
Okay.
And Woody Allen, I will never watch a Woody Allen movie for any reason.
No.
Just because he's problematic. Yeah. Because his daughter has, to this day, and her brother says, he completely believes her and whatever, that he sexually abused her when she was a little girl. Well, Manhattan is about this man who's like 47 and is in love with Mariel Hemingway, who's like 17.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be normal and whatever. It's like, yeah, gross.
Yeah.
And he's gross. And if you think about the fact that Woody Allen married basically his stepdaughter, who he knew from the time she was a little girl.
Ew.
Gross.
Ew.
So
yeah, it's fucking gross.
As he keeps making movies, and they become less and less frequent because he's 150 years old. But I will not pay one nickel for a Woody Allen movie, and I won't watch them even if they're on TV free because I'm like, no, that he's
disgusting.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what I have.
It's you. Do you have anything else?
Let's
You're
see.
running out of things.
No. Okay, so do you remember in the 90s there was all those like teen high school movies like She's All That?
Yeah.
Where it was the whole trope of, we're going to take the ugly, dumb, nerdy girl and turn her into like a hottie with a body and take her to prom. That whole thing to me is super problematic because to me it shows that it's teaching younger women that they need to change themselves to be loved, accepted, win prom queen, be the
like
hot
Grease.
girl. Very much like Grease, right? But there's a lot of that trope where like the hot Freddie Prinze Jr. type guy, right, is like, oh no, but I like you, but not really. He just is in a bet, right? Where, I'm going to make you hot and you're going to win prom queen.
Right.
It's just real problematic.
Yeah, I was watching something recently, and I don't even now remember what it was, where someone makes the remark to the female character of they're expecting her to take off her glasses and like shake out her hair and be hot because that's how it happens in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you have to do is take off your librarian glasses and pull the pin out of your hair, the one pin that's holding up all of your hair.
Yeah.
And it'll shake out and you'll look like,
You just got to blow out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like beautiful.
And be gorgeous.
Yeah, and the wind's going to blow somewhere. It's going to be weird and you're going to be beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole idea is just like, what?
Yeah.
It's just a man fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and most of these I would imagine are written by men.
Well, like Revenge of the Nerds. Did you ever see Revenge of the Nerds?
I did, and I saw this was on the problematic list, and I haven't seen it since it came out because I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny. No. I thought it was stupid.
Well, it's because towards the end they do things where it's like making peepholes into girls' rooms or using like sex or getting sex with a drunk girl for revenge.
Ah, sure.
Revenge sex.
Right, revenge sex.
A lot of Adam Sandler films, like Waterboy specifically, where he has intellectual disabilities and they're like redneck swamp people. And his mom is Kathy Bates and keeps calling football foosball. But his whole thing, and he's the water boy, but he's like special needs, but he's like such a good football player that they eventually, because he gets angry and tackle, like
right.
It is just like that kind of exploitation kind of film, And
I was reading a thing when I was doing some research for this that said the same thing about Forrest Gump. Mm-hmm. But it was saying, and I was like, oh, I did not get that. I thought he did a pretty good job of
someone with intellectual disabilities.
Yeah. But they said the other issue was that it completely slut shames the girl that he's in love with, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, different time.
Yeah.
And I see that now. That part I was like, oh, I get that. I do get that. You know.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know what else I have on here.
Well, that's okay because we, you know.
Ooh, we did it?
We did it. We talked about that for an hour and whatever, and we somehow made it. Although I am going to say one more thing, which is The Last Tango in Paris, which is a Marlon Brando movie. Okay. He decided, I don't know if it's him and the director, to add this rape scene where he uses a stick of butter as lubricant. And gross. But the woman who is in the scene with him was so horrified because A, it wasn't in the script. And B, she said that even though he obviously wasn't really raping her, she felt so violated and was crying real tears through the whole scene, and they left it in the movie. And it was like, ugh, gross. Well, Marlon Brando was gross anyway.
Yeah.
But that was 1972, and I imagine nobody who's listening to us has seen that movie. I read the book, but I didn't see the movie.
Yeah.
So, but ugh.
Gross.
For him to be like, oh, for dramatic purposes.
I'm gonna rape ya.
But the movie Showgirls.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw that in the theater, and I saw the NC-17 version.
Yeah, you did, you slut.
I'm sorry, but the rape scene in that was like, did we just film this just to be problematic?
Yeah.
Because it was way, way too much.
I do love the movie.
But Paul Verhoeven is known for being like over the top and kind of gross and whatever. Yeah. But you know, that brings us to the end of our time here together. So you have, I'm sure, got homework to do. So
yes, girl. I go to LA in 6 days. I have to do as much homework as possible because next week is finals week. And I'll be in Los Angeles. So.
Right. And so, to answer Lori Lee's question, you are done with school in November.
Yeah, so I'm taking 2 classes over the summer and 2 in the fall, and then I'm done.
And then you are done. And
all
then
done.
You'll be super brainiac.
And then I'll be smart. Yeah, and then I'll be officially smart.
Yeah, because you'll have a piece of paper to prove
I have 2 of them, bitch.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Yeah, you better watch what you say.
I don't even have one.
I know.
Although it's funny, as I was talking with someone the other day about diplomas, and it's like, you know, in my entire life, I've been out of high school for 40... I have to do math.
Don't, just 40. Just 40 days.
43 years.
Okay.
I've literally shown one person my diploma one time, and that was when I started beauty school.
Yeah. You know, I've never been asked for anything. You know, it's like high school diploma or GED equivalent. Like, I've never ever had to show anybody that ever.
I've marked it on many forums that I have one.
Yeah.
But no one's ever said, we'd like to see that.
Yeah.
You look kind of stupid. You probably...
Listen here, dummy.
We don't think you really have one, so we're going to need to see that. I'm sorry, but people graduate from a place called YC High. Mm-hmm. No.
It's better. Calling it YC High is so much better than Yamhill Carlton High School. I hate it.
When I was in 8th grade, they were trying to get us to think of things to use as our 8th grade graduation theme. And one of the boys was like, it should be YC or bust. And it's like, when you say it quickly... It's just like
YC or bust.
YC or bust.
I hate it. People from YC are stupid.
Yeah, I know, honey. But we don't ever have to go back.
Praise Jesus, hallelujah!
I know, but we do have to leave, and so I do want to remind you, like I do every week, that if you want to send us emails, please do.
Yeah. And
if you want to send Annika, gift cards for being smart and graduating college, you can do that.
I'll link my Venmo so you can just send me money directly.
Right. What's funny is when I listen to most of the podcasts I listen to at the end, they give their socials where you can find them, on social media. And one was like, you can find me at, and it was their Venmo address.
Yeah, I love
it. You can find me at A Touch of Vanity, or at A Touch of Vanity. That's my Venmo, I think. Yeah. Venmo, whatever. Anyhow, but our email address here is itwouldseemasthough@gmail.com. And you can find us on all the major podcasting apps. Subscribe and it'll automatically come to you. And you can listen to us or not listen to us. That's your choice.
Yeah, bitch. But you better listen to me.
Freedom. Do what you like. And if you have suggestions of what you'd like us to talk about, send them to us.
Tell me.
And we may or may not talk about them.
Yeah, because we don't do what you tell us to do.
No, we don't do what anybody tells us
to
do.
Girl,
that's why we're
ever.
problematic.
No, not ever.
So like the films we talked about today, we are problematic.
We are.
All right.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
It would seem as though...